Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. Do you remember there was that whole Christmas thing, and then there was the whole New Year thing, and we recorded back-to-back podcasts to cover us through Christmas and New Year? Well, the bills come due, ladies and gents. We needed to cover off all of those podcasts, all those games and all those results, and that's resulted in a monster edition of the football podcast. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where we can leave reviews. Share the podcast around, that's the big one. Share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send them this podcast. They might actually thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Yes, indeed. Those eponymous words that you all have grown to love and enjoy so much are back in amongst your ear and eye holes. Welcome all back in, ladies and gentlemen, after our self-imposed festive break. We're coming back at you with some updates from a football perspective for Middlesbrough, Hull City and Nottingham Forest, brought to you by the CookieCast podcast network. Obviously, for you people watching on YouTube, you can see the four lovely faces smiling back at you as we speak. Obviously, I'm joined by the usual cronies of Mr. Andrew Cook, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey and Mr. Matthew Muller. How are we all, boys? How was your festive period?
Festive?
Good. Very nice. We like to hear it. So obviously, we're into a new year. 2024 has started, which means that the transfer window has opened as of the 1st of January. As at the time of recording, no transfers in, unless, has the Billy Sharp thing officially gone through yet for Hull?
Yeah.
Have they announced, have they done pictures and shirt posing and
Is there a chair?
No, there's no chair.
I'm out. I'm done. No way.
It's so 2023, Andrew.
I'm just buying the time.
We can only speculate on what 2024's signing meme will be. Answers on a postcard. Obviously, if you know what it's going to be, it'll probably be some sort of three-legged stool or some sort of space hopper or something where the players really have to work to get comfortable on it.
Billy Sharp, he's old. Let's not make him pull his hamstring before he starts playing football. We don't need a space hopper nonsense. Come on.
I mean, it's sensible with when you're signing players that are a couple of years off collecting their pension. That's a very sensible thing.
Hey, he's a year younger than me, apparently.
Well, don't want to cast aspersions, but So, just the one sign that's been official so far for Hull. Obviously, there's loads of rumours doing the rounds, so we won't dive into any of those as we'll be here for the rest of time. So we'll jump back into where we were. Oh, Matthew has something he would like to raise.
Forest have got 2 outs already. So Gustavo Scarpa has gone back to Brazil, to Athletic Mineiro, I think. And I believe they're also looking at one of your former loanees from Fulham. I think Muniz. I'd seen that somewhere. And very successful. Andre Santos has been recalled by Chelsea from his loan spell, where he made 2 appearances, 7 minutes in the Premier League, I think so. 1 full game in the Carabao Cup and 7 minutes against Burnley in the Premier League. So, yeah, financial fair play, and Forest are wasting money on people who don't play. So yeah.
What I've personally taken from that, Matt, is that his position in Forest folklore is absolutely nailed on.
Yeah, it'll be one of them ones where you kind of sat there and you'll be going, when did he play for us? What season's that? Kind of thing. You had that one of those ones. Like, I can't remember that player playing for us.
Yeah, it's always good. I remember there was one season where I think Borough signed one player on the very last day of the transfer window. On loan, there was a bit of a hoo-ha about him because he was a Brazilian international. He came in, didn't play a game, and then didn't sign again. So, a completely wasted signing, you might say, on that regard. So yes, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll keep you abreast of any ins and outs that are going on at our clubs. And then obviously the transfer window will slam shut at the end of January, and we'll go with the squads as they are until the end of the season. In our last set of recordings, obviously, we made predictions for the games prior to Christmas and over the Christmas period into the new year. So we'll go back to our second to last podcast that we recorded, and we'll start with what was at the time Week 21's predictions. And the first game of said predictions was Bristol City taking on Hull City. How did this one play out in the end, Mr. Woodmansey?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, no, it was a bit of an action-packed opener to the festivities over that period, because Hull were 1-0 down, then were 2-1 up, and then lost 3-2. So, not amazing. Not only did City lose the game, but also Ryan Alsop, which would then affect the rest of the team over the rest of the fixtures over Christmas. He was subbed off 2 minutes before the winner was scored, which did take a bit of a deflection, but nevertheless, we'll never know if he would have saved it, because he was crocked with a hip injury. So your goal scorers in that game for Bristol: Conway on 25 minutes with a penalty, Mehmeti on 76 minutes, and Knight on 84. Your Hull goal scorers were Connolly on 33 and Tufan with a penalty just before half-time.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this the game where you said there's absolutely no chance that Tufan scores for 3 games in a row?
Correct.
That must come with some sort of forfeit.
Well, it was a penalty, so he had a helping hand in that.
Oh.
Unless we're playing by Harry Kane rules and we'll just pad all of the stats. Who knows?
Very good, very good. So yeah, sadly, Hull didn't kick off the festive period with a positive result. Predictions-wise, neither did any of us, as I and Stu had both gone for a 1-1 draw. Matt and Andy had gone for Hull City away wins. We did some of us did, however, claw some points back, as I had Mehmeti and Tufan to score across the board. So I get 2 points for that. Matt also had Conway to score for Bristol City, so bags himself a bonus point there. We move on to Nottingham Forest versus Bournemouth, and this turned out to be the first game in charge for the new incoming manager, Nuno Espirito Santo. And how did it pan out, Matthew?
Not ideal. Well, I think the result wasn't ideal. So it was a Forest 3-2 loss. I quick kind of thing. So I think it was a pretty even game. But then about 23 minutes in, Willie Bolly got sent off for his second bookable offence, in which the Bournemouth player trod on his ankle after he won the ball, and then went down like he got shot. Bolly got his second yellow card, and apparently that's not reviewable by VAR because it's not a significant event. A red card would suggest it is, but we could talk all the time about that. After that, though, I think I got this right. Did Forest take the lead? I can't remember. Pretty sure Forest took the lead after half time. Through Olanga. Bournemouth hit back with 2 goals from Dominic Solanke. Forest equalised through Chris Wood. Unfortunately, Solanke scored his hat-trick in added time. So Forest lose 3-2. But apparently a very battling performance, and to score 2 goals when you're down to 10 men is kind of not the norm, should we say. So yeah, Forest 3-2 loss.
Yeah, the Bolly second yellow was possibly one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in the history of the sport. To be honest with you, I don't think, given the tackle that he made, I don't think he could have won. I don't think he could have won the ball any cleaner, and not even sort of like followed through on the guy. If anything, it was the Bournemouth guy fouling him by kicking him.
I think if there hadn't have been a yellow card for Bolly, there might have been every chance of the Bournemouth guy getting sent off. I have seen players sent off for what the Bournemouth guy did, as opposed to what Bolly did. Yeah, not good.
Very, very strange indeed. From a predictions perspective, I had gone positive. I thought there would be a bit of new manager bounce in this one, so I'd gone for the 1-0 Forest win, so I don't get any points. Matt and Andy had both gone for draws. Matt had gone 2-2 with Wood and Solanke both to score in the game, so gets himself 2 points for that. Andy had gone for 1-1 with Wood and Solanke to score, so gets himself 2 points for that. Mr. Woodmansey, however, had gone for a 2-1 Bournemouth win. Gets himself a point for the result. He'd also picked Olanga and Solanke to score, so gets himself 2 points on that. 3 points overall for Mr. Woodmansey. Our next game saw my boys, Middlesbrough, take on what technically would potentially be classed as my wife's boys in West Bromwich Albion, so the Williams Derby, as it were. And it was the home supporters that were the most happy, as Middlesbrough went out as a 1-0 winner in this one. Morgan Rogers getting the winner after the ball had been played down the left-hand channel by Dan Barlaser for Lucas Engel to latch onto. He squared the ball back to the edge of the box with Morgan Rogers tapping in. Looked like it was a game that Borough were pretty much in control of from start to finish, to be honest with you. So yeah, one side of the Williams household very happy. The other, well, she didn't really care, to be honest with her. It's more her father that supports the team. So I immediately received a text saying, no Christmas presents this year. Boo, boo, boo. Predictions-wise, Stu was the least optimistic. Sorry, I take it back. Myself and Stu were both the least optimistic, as we had both gone for West Brom wins. Stu gone for 1-0, I went 2-1. Sadly, neither of us had Rodgers in that equation. Matt had gone for a 1-1 draw, but hadn't picked Rodgers as his Borough scorer. Andy picked a 1-0 Middlesbrough win. Very good, 2 points. Sadly, had Silvera as the goal scorer, not Rodgers. So just the 2 points for Mr. Cook on that one. Whereas I haven't been given a running total, so after three games so far, I'm on 2 points. Matt and Stu are both on 3 points. Mr. Cook on 4 points after 3 games. We then move to the Boxing Day slate of games, and we return to the North East. Now we stay in the North East as we were there for the Borough game. We stay in the North East, but go a little bit further up the coast to Tyneside, where Newcastle United took on Nottingham Forest, and there wasn't really a better way to start Boxing Day, was there, Mr. Moore?
There wasn't. I was kind of, we kind of made plans to go out, just go for a walk, and that kind of thing, and I knew that Forest was on, but I thought, I don't know what's that. I don't need that in my life. And then then I saw the score, and I was like, well, I better sit and watch the end of this then, hadn't I? So yes, Forest went 1-0 down. Again, bit of a soft penalty. It's these ones that keep on getting given, and the old players are starting to twist about them a little bit. And then Alexander Isak stuck that one away. I don't know what Matt Turner was doing. I mean, if he would have dived for it properly, he probably wouldn't have saved it. But he didn't really do anything and nearly saved it. Then after half time, just before half time, the game kind of got turned on its head. As Chris Wood scored his first of 3 goals. So the kind of old boy syndrome coming back to bite Newcastle hard. I think I sent a thing from a Newcastle fan, a tweet or something like that from a Newcastle fan, saying that they've gone through relegations and Ashley and having the name thing, but nothing's more embarrassing than the fact that Chris Wood scored a hat-trick against them. I thought that was a bit harsh, because I think he's a decent striker. I know he's perhaps not like world class, but he's not terrible. But yeah, so Forest run out 3-1 winners. Delightful stuff as the Toon fans booed their team off, because of course they turned nice and quickly the best fans in the country.
I believe in our group chat, it was something akin to they're here, they're there, they're every fucking where. Empty seats, as the Newcastle fans were streaming out of the stadium with them 3-1 down. Oh, you just love to see. I mean, I don't know which I love more. I don't know if I prefer a Borough win or a Newcastle defeat. I honestly don't know which I prefer more.
It's the delightful overreaction that comes with it. And I've not seen anything about the Liverpool game apart from the kind of questions about the penalties given. But I can already see the kind of, oh my goodness, what's going on? Oh God, it's terrible. And then when they don't sign Calvin Phillips as well in the winter, it's going to make them even more over the top and like losing their shit, which is even better.
But like what I particularly enjoyed about those two in particular was the fact that Forest gave them the hope of going 1-0 up first and then absolutely ruined them. And then also in the Liverpool game, it was like, oh, you've got one back. Oh, we'll score 2 more, so it doesn't matter. Like, okay, so you go.
I mean, I did particularly enjoy the fact that Elanga also absolutely destroyed hometown hero Dan Burn for 50
got
minutes.
subbed off, didn't he?
Yeah. I think for his own sake. It was an absolute destruction. And the guy that Livramento who came on didn't do a whole lot better.
No. Apparently, I didn't see it, but apparently in the post-match interview, when he was being interviewed, apparently someone said to Chris Wood, "Oh, there were very un-Chris Wood-like finishes," and apparently he just went, "Thanks," or something like that. I just had to sort of laugh off the fact that the interview was making saying, well, you're a bit shit normally, aren't you? You took that quite well, didn't you? It's like, okay.
To be unfair, I only spent the best part of 3 years on the bench, because obviously he's not played much for Forest. He's not played a whole lot for, he wasn't playing a lot for Newcastle before that, but at Burnley he was decent, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It bodes well though. He obviously wouldn't, like you say, he hasn't played a lot, and he wouldn't have been playing had like a 1 year and all the rest have been fit, and yet he seems to have come into his own at like the most important part of the season. So
yeah.
I think there's always been like the argument that he's a proven Premier League striker, because obviously the numbers are there to back it up. I think sometimes he's unfairly labelled as just like a target man because he's quite big. He's built and he's large. So he'll always have that, and because he played in a Sean Dyche team, he'll always sort of be unfairly labelled as just the lump that's just up top and stuff like that.
That was on a podcast I was listening to with Darren Fletcher, the commentator for TNT. He was saying that was something that Dyche had said to him, that Dyche had turned up at Burnley and Chris Wood was already there. And they assumed that he would fulfil that role. And he was like, no, I don't play like that. I can actually play like a striker that you can play into my feet and stuff like that and play around me.
Yeah.
So they were like, all right, we've got a bit more than what we kind of thought we had, kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't think, when Awoniyi comes back, he'll be hopefully straight back into the team, because there's a different kind of dynamic when he's playing. But to see Wood playing well is it's good.
Absolutely, and like you said, I suppose it gives them more option. If they did want to play two strikers, that's always an option. Predictions-wise, Matt was the least optimistic and had gone for a 2-1 Newcastle win. Wilson and Lascelles for Newcastle. Wood to notch for Forest. So did get himself a bonus point for the goal scorer. Myself and Stuart both gone for 1-1 draws. Stuart gone for Gordon and Gibbs White. I'd gone for Lascelles and Wood. So I get myself a bonus point there. Andy was the most optimistic of a lot of us, and it paid off for him as he had predicted a 2-0 Nottingham Forest win with goals for Hudson-Odoi and Wood. So bagging himself another 2 points for the week in Mr. Andrew Cook. 2 games left on Boxing Day, and the first of which was viewed by one member of this podcast as Hull City took on Sunderland. Was there any Boxing Day cheer to be had in Humberside, Mr. Woodmansey?
No. There was a little bit of new manager bounce for Michael Beale for Sunderland. The most exciting thing about the first half was that Jude Bellingham was spotted in the crowd sporting a Sunderland scarf, supporting his brother. It was only really a Tyler Morton shot in the first half that I really remember. Everything, however, changed in the second half. It seemingly they decided that, we might have a game of football on our hands here. The worst miss of the afternoon was, you'll be pleased to know, Paul Aaron Connolly from just inside the penalty spot had pretty much the whole goal to aim at and hit it right at the keeper with the approximate power of a 4-year-old. Other than that, everything that Sunderland did was through Jack Clark, and then kind of fit in that he got the winner, I suppose, but I had to wait until the 82nd minute for the goal to go in, so very close to it being a 0-0 on Boxing Day, which in many ways probably would have preferred.
Yes, not the result that all the Hull fans certainly were hoping for, and from a podcast perspective, not the result any of us were hoping for, as Stu and Matt had both gone for draws, 2-2 and 1-1 respectively. However, they both had picked Jack Clark to score in their Sunderland mix, so do get themselves a bonus point there for goal scorers. Sadly for myself and for Mr. Cook, a 2-1 and a 2-0 Hull City win respectively does not pay off for either of us, and sadly neither of us picked Clark in our goal scorers, so no points there for myself and Mr. Cook. Our final game of Boxing Day saw Rotherham United take on my boys, and of course, as discussed on the previous podcast, technically Mr. Cook's boys of Middlesbrough. This one seemed to go the way that all games between Rotherham and Middlesbrough go these days, where Middlesbrough absolutely batter the shit out of Rotherham for pretty much 90 minutes and succumb to a 1-0 loss. The goal was scored midway through the second half when, I don't know his first name, I've just got Bramall written down, I believe he's the left back. The ball was played into him on the left-hand side. He carried the ball for a couple of metres and then just put in what appeared to be a speculative cross, but must have caught the wind or something similar and has completely flown over the goalkeeper's head into the back of the net. And Borough could break down Rotherham. They hit the post about 4 times, had shots cleared off the line. Just not Borough's day, sadly. Also, not the day of anyone in the podcast, as we'd all gone for a Borough win. Myself and Stu, 2-0 to the Borough. Andy, 1-0 to the Borough. Matt was the only person that gave Rotherham a goal and had gone for Eves. So, no points across the board for that last game, which means for the week, from 6 games, I bagged a whopping 3 points. Stu bagged 4 points. Matt, 5 points, but winning the week, as it were, Mr. Andrew Cook with 6 points from 6 games. Very well done, sir. Very well done indeed. We have week 22's games to go through now, which there are 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 5 games to go through there. We'll start with Huddersfield Town versus Middlesbrough. But before we start with that, we will just take a very short break just to recompose ourselves and start again on the next slate of predictions that we need to go through. You won't need to do anything though, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
And just like that, we're back in town. So, week 21, done and dusted. Week 22's predictions started with Huddersfield Town versus mine and Andrew's lot, Middlesbrough. Although technically, at this point, Andrew is no longer a Middlesbrough FC fan. He now officially supports Rotherham United, but obviously we can't go back in time and predict Rotherham's games. I don't know if Mr. Woodmansey is trying to make a point there, or if he's putting his hand up to block Andrew from his side.
I think it's just very disappointing that over the course of this season's podcast, it's recorded for the rest of time that Andy was a Wigan fan for longer than he was a Borough fan.
Yeah, but you just play with the hands you dealt, are you? I mean, how on earth were Middlesbrough ever supposed to compete with the might of Rotherham United?
One of the worst teams I've seen at Hull this season.
oh yeah. Oh, don't worry. I've regularly checked the league table just to make sure that obviously Rotherham have beaten some absolute stellar opposition this season for their 3 league wins. But anyway, we'll won't dwell on the fact that Rotherham are horrendously bad. We'll just
it's okay. It's okay. The fact that you can get your own back when we get to the last Hull fixture of the podcast. It's fine. Well, spoilers.
Well, quite. So, Huddersfield Town versus Middlesbrough. This took place on Friday the 29th, I believe. Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Friday the 29th. This was an evening fixture, even though obviously it was played in the period between the Christmas and New Year break. It started off quite well for Middlesbrough. Apart from Isaiah Jones with what can only be described as the miss of the season and possibly his entire life. He ran into the box, managed to have the ball sort of rebound into his path, past the goalkeeper with an open goal at his mercy, and he managed to misjudge the bounce of the ball and hit fresh air as he was going to tap in from, no joke, 3 yards out. I'd say this is a bit of an anomaly, but it's not the first time I've seen a Middlesbrough player not score from basically the goal line in that stadium. Just at times, just unbelievable how what that stadium does to the Middlesbrough players. Borough were the only team that had a chance to score that was pretty much from an open goal. I don't know the player off the top of my head, but it might have been Sorba Thomas. Ran through, rounded the goalkeeper, and with an open goal managed to hit the bar. So at least it made contact with the ball as opposed to Isaiah Jones just fresh air shot him. So we'll call it 1-1 on the open goal chances. The scoring was opened in the second half when Josh Coburn was played through. Morgan Rogers clipped the ball into the box with Coburn just latching onto the end of it and just lifting the ball quite cheekily over the goalkeeper into the net. It was 1-1 a few minutes later when Michael Hellick had stayed up from a Huddersfield attack. The ball was pinging around the edge of the box. It fell to Hellick, who just passed it into the corner to make it 1-1. And then Middlesbrough were given possibly one of the worst penalties I've ever seen when Morgan Rogers was clipped inside the box. I think it's one of those ones where you get them, you're absolutely ecstatic. They're given against you, and you're asking what sort of parentage the referee has, where he's based in the country, all that sort of stuff, because it was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. Morgan Rogers is on his way down when he decides to get touched, and the ref gives the penalty. Justice was done, however, as the Huddersfield keeper flew himself to his left to save Johnny Howson's spot kick. He went out for a corner, and from the same resulting corner, the ball was played to the back stick where it was headed back into the danger area, and Johnny Howson managed to get on the end of it to hit it into the floor. It looped over the defender who was back on the line trying to defend the post for 2-1, and that's how the game ended, in a 2-1 win for the Borough. We all had predicted wins for the Borough. Stuart and Andy had gone for 2-0. Sadly, neither of them had Coburn or Houston to score, whereas myself and Matt had both gone for 2-1 Borough wins. So me and Matt both get ourselves a goal, 2 points for the correct score. Matt gets a bonus point as he had Howson to score. So very well played by Mr. Moore there, as Johnny Howson doesn't score all that often. Our next game that took place on that Friday night was Hull City versus Blackburn Rovers. As this was at the MKM Stadium, were you in attendance, Mr. Woodmansey?
Yep, it was a night game, no school the next morning, and me and the boys were there, and pleased that we went. So for the second time in 3 games, Hull involved in a game that finished 3-2, but this time, thankfully, on the better half of that. So Delat made it 1-0 to Hull after 11 minutes, completely against the run of play. Blackburn were all over Hull, but Delat picked the ball up quite close to the edge of the box. Had to go around the defender, which forced him way out to the right, and as he cut back in, it was one of them where he had nobody following in, didn't really have time to kind of hang around, so just, for want of a better expression, absolutely twatted it at the near post, and the keeper missed it. So that'll do for me, 1-0. And then still against the run of play, Aaron Connolly, once again with his shooting boots on, Paul, guided the ball to the bottom right, sort of on a half volley. So yeah, happy after 18 minutes. However, as I mentioned, it had the whole thing up to that point had been against the run of play. Blackburn looked good, and a goal was coming. On 33 minutes, the Championship's leading goal scorer, Sammy Smodics, stuck one away, right in front of us, much to the boys' displeasure. And then also got level just before half-time, 3 minutes into added time at the end of the first half. Pickering made it 2-2 going into the break. I don't know, we didn't really know what to expect second half, if we were just going to come out and get absolutely smashed, or if Hull would put up a bit of a fight, if there be any changes, whatever it might be. Thankfully, Hull did put up a fight, started to drive at the defence, and yellow cards were being handed out, left, right and centre. And then on 63 minutes, Tyler Morton put a corner in from the left, found Alfie Jones, of all people, centre-half in the box, not on his head. The ball had already made it to the floor, and he managed to scrape it in from about 4 yards out for Alfie Jones to score what is only his second ever goal for Hull City. Things were made to look a little better for Hull on 74 minutes as Hyam, whoever his pronunciation is this time, got sent off for a second bookable offence for Blackburn Rovers. It was a foul on Tufan that did it. Definitely was a yellow, so yeah, really nowhere to go. Blackburn, though, however, did look... You know, like when you play against some teams sometimes and they have a man sent off and you're like, which team had the man sent off? Because it really seemed to galvanise them. Like, you wouldn't have noticed for the last 15 minutes of the game at all. But Hull hung on, despite Matt Ingram flapping like a toddler in the goal. They won 3-2, have 38% possession overall. But I think this is possibly a record or close to a record for my own personal view, in that there was 6 yellows and 1 red in the game. So second half was, say, entertaining, but a little bit feisty. I suppose the red was 2 yellows, so maybe it's 8 yellows, who knows? But yeah, a lot of cards. But yeah, 3 more points on the board, and at the time moved Hull back up into 6th.
Not bad. On the sort of the red card thing, it's quite funny because when Jonathan Woodgate was the manager at the Borough, they went down to 10 men in a game against someone early doors, and then just couldn't break them down, so the game petered out to a draw. And in his post-match interview, he said, "Well, sometimes playing against 10 men's harder than playing against 11 because the team just sits in and stuff like that." And then I don't know if it was the next game or within the next couple of games, Borough went down to 10 men early doors in a game and absolutely capitulated and got beat 3-0. So don't really know how that one works, Johnny. Can't really have it both ways, son. Anyway, back on track. Predictions-wise, we all had varying degrees of Hull win. So we all get 1 point straight off the bat. Myself, Stu and Andy had all gone for 1-0 wins. Stuart had gone for Tufan to score, whereas myself and Andy, strangely enough, had picked Connolly to score. I obviously had something put in my morning Weetabix. Matt had gone for a 2-1 with Delap to score, Tufan to score, and Shmodix to score. So backed himself 3 points from that game. So 2 games into week 22. I have 4 points, Stu has 2 points, Matt has 6 points, Andy with 3 points. Our next game took us to the weekend and Saturday, where Nottingham Forest were playing Manchester United. Was this one a little bit better than the first home game of the Nuno regime, Mr. Moore?
Certainly was. Yeah. Apparently it's like kind of one of them folklore kind of things. Apparently Gibbs White in their huddle at the start was like, look at their faces, they don't fancy it, they don't want to be here. And I mean, I think we've all commented on Marcus Rashford. He doesn't look like he wants to be anywhere near a football pitch, full stop, for England or for Man United at the moment. I think Forest basically, a couple of players dropped out. Did Hudson-Odoi drop out? I want to say Hudson-Odoi dropped out and Sangare dropped out for Yates and Dominguez coming back in. I think something like that. And yeah, kind of picked up where they left off. And ironically, Anthony Elanga terrorising Man United, considering that he left in the summer, and also apparently giving them a bit of. We commented on the fact that Chris Wood should have given Newcastle a bit of you know what for scoring a hat trick. Anthony Elanga fully embraced the opposite of the festive season, as he was subbed off and made sure that he went off the furthest side from the dugout for Forest and walked around the pitch in front of the Man United fans and gave his badge a nice little tap on the way past. So yeah, Forest opened the scoring through Dominguez. I think he's starting to find his mojo again. Lovely move, nice passing, particularly passing on the right hand side, and he just slotted it in past the keeper. Then, Forest held the lead for quite a while, but then Matt Turner, who had apparently had a shocking game distribution-wise. Anyway, I think he'd already had one where he'd gone to make a clearance, sliced it, and then had to claim it back. Then passed it to Garnacho. It was a lovely pass. Slotted him straight in for Rashford, the aforementioned Rashford, to kind of slot it past him. Nice finish, by pretty much the goal to aim at. At that point, I was convinced that Forest would roll over, because that's generally what we do. But no, came back, and Gibbs White, I think we've all predicted him multiple times this season, waiting for him to score. Again, really nice finish. I think Yates picked up the ball on the edge of the box, driving run, nobody closed him down, passed it out to Elanga, who made a nice run, cut back in, laid it off to Gibbs White, who was kind of coming a little bit late on the edge of the box, and he just curled it round the keeper. 2-1. But kind of out of the three Christmas time games, this was the one. No, I don't know. Yeah, I expected 3 points. I thought maybe we'd get 3 points when we lost to Bournemouth. I thought, right, we're going to get 0 from Christmas and we'll be in the relegation zone. But 2 good wins against probably teams that are struggling at the moment, but are decent teams nonetheless. So yeah.
Absolutely, you can't be turning down 3 points against Manchester United. That's certainly the case. Predictions-wise, none of us had gone for a Forest win. There was a couple of 1-1 draws in there. Stu and Andy. Stu had Yates and McTominay. Andy had Elanga and Rashford. So gets himself a bonus point for the Rashford goal. Myself and Matt had both taken 2-1 Manchester United wins. I had Hudson-Odoi, Fernandes and Garnacho. Matt had Elanga, Fernandes and Rashford. So bonus points there for Matt and Andy for the goal scorers. We move to the New Year's Day games, and the first of the 2024 campaign for my boys, Middlesbrough, taking on their somewhat kryptonite at the moment of Coventry City. And the game started particularly well, in the fact that Borough were on the front foot as soon as the game started. This was also my first home match of the season so far for the Borough. I took my seat up in the northwest corner, and I enjoyed it for the first half an hour. Isaiah Jones had a chance where he took it past the keeper, tried to clip the ball in, but the defender got back on the line to clear it away. And the scoring opened when the ball was worked out again to Isaiah Jones. He clipped the ball into the area where Josh Coburn had run off his marker to head in for his second goal in 2 games. In a cruel twist of fate, it almost seemed as if scoring the first goal angered Coventry and got them going, as they equalised within a couple of minutes. There was a corner taken from the left-hand side, a brilliant flicked-on header, which the goalkeeper Tom Glover did well to keep out. The ball cleared its way to the edge of the box, where Sakamoto was there to slam the ball home and equalise it. A couple more chances in the first half for Borough to retake the lead. A couple of chances from the edge of the box where the shots were dug out into the top corner, but the keeper managed to claw them out. So went into the break at half-time at 1-1. And into the second half, Borough just never got going. Coventry put them straight on the back foot. Borough were trying to pass out from the back, and it just wasn't working. They were getting picked off time and time again. The second for Coventry came from Haji Wright. Borough didn't clear their lines out on the left-hand side. They had their pockets pinched. The ball was clipped in for Ellis Sims. The first effort was saved by the goalkeeper, went back to Sims, who managed to square the ball across where Haji Wright was just lurking at the back post, just to tap it in. And the game was well and truly sewn up when Sakamoto got his second. A little pass and move section of play was done on the right hand side, and then worked the ball across the box. Managed to get the ball clipped across where Sakamoto had managed to make his way to the back stick to head in. Once Borough were down 3-1 down, they were just basically trying to play the ball long. All throughout the game, one of the centre halves, Matt Clark, had been trying to play the ball out from the back, and turned one too many times to play the ball back to the goalkeeper, and was greeted with an awful lot of consternation by the fans. So the next time he got the ball, he turned to play it back to the goalkeeper, and you could see that the fans were straight on him, as if to say, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" So what happens? He just hoofs the ball long, and it just goes straight into touch or straight to the commentary player, and you could tell at that point that his confidence was shot, and he just absolutely crumbled. So marvellous, really good job by the Borough fans there, just completely killing a player's confidence just by just generally being arseholes. So the game peaked out to a 3-1 win for Coventry. No complaints from me personally. It's Coventry. I've seen obviously Coventry play the last 2 games at the Riverside now, and they've Coventry'd us to an absolute T, I would say. They're probably the best drilled side I've seen in a long time. Every single player in that squad knows exactly what they need to do if they're picked. It's not even terrible football either, to be fair. They do pass it around quite nicely. So
it's so annoying though, because Mark Robbins is a massive knobhead.
There was a fan in the stand behind me who definitely shared that sentiment, as I believe, "You're the guy who kept Ferguson in his job, you little knobhead." I believe he used called him "you little ginger knobhead." I believe was the phrase that they uttered for Mr. Robbins. Yeah, annoying, but he does get his teams to play some nice stuff. Sadly. Predictions wise, no one had a Coventry City win, so no points for the result. Stuart gone for a 1-1 draw, and did have Sakamoto to score, so gets himself a bonus point. Everyone else had gone for Borough wins. I gone 1-0. Stanley had gone 2-0. Matt had gone 2-1. Had picked Gordon to score for Coventry. Sadly, not Sakamoto or Wright. So just the 1 point there for Stu. And that takes us to our last game of week 22, which was Sheffield Wednesday versus Hull City. This one was live on Sky Television, I believe. Did you watch? And should you have not bothered?
Yeah, we watched, and we should not have bothered. So, for the first time in a very, very long time, Hull went 3 at the back, which seemed a little bit of a strange decision. Presume it's purely for the fact that we still haven't got a left back and was trying something different. Over the games over Christmas, at one point, I forgot to mention, we had Regan Slater, standard attacking midfielder, playing at left back for us in a 4-4-2 formation, so that was bizarre. Rossini changed it up. Hull weren't at the races right from the off. And in my opinion, and if any of you guys have seen this, I would be interested to see if you agree, we're wrongly reduced to 10 men on 35 minutes, as Morton went in hard, let's be fair, but not only did he hit the ball with his foot, and then the foot that came through afterwards, it wasn't two-footed at the same time. I can understand why the referee had a bit of a shit fit seeing it in real time, but he wasn't that far away from it and absolutely shit the bed. And there was definitely fouls in the second half that were worse than that he only gave a yellow for. But that just destroyed any kind of flow again. as Paul said, you know, them teams that have 10 men, yeah, they sometimes play better. Nope, we weren't playing well to start with, and continued to get worse. They did, however, hang on to make it 0-0 at half-time, but it wasn't very long after that Wednesday capitalised. Johnson scored on 49 minutes. Gassama scored with a lovely strike on 55 minutes. Sort of, as you look at it, front left of the penalty area, just swept it into the bottom right-hand corner. I mean, Matt Ingram might as well have been on his Christmas holidays still. I would never used to slate him because I feel that he got unfairly treated at one point. But the only thing he really had going for him was that he was always a shot stopper and his distribution was terrible. It turns out that he's forgotten that bit as well so far from what I've seen over Christmas. It's not great. Then, son of club legend Dean, Josh Windass put the game beyond any doubt on 72 minutes. And we just was like, yeah, I mean, I think I went in the kitchen at that point to go and, I don't know, hide the knives just in case it got any worse. But no, seriously. Then we got a penalty. Hull got a penalty on 76 minutes, which was dispatched by Scott Twine. And it finished 3-1 to Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, in the post-match interviews, Rossignol did admit that he gambled at half-time with some substitutions because he brought on Christie and Doherty, I think, at half-time. Changed the formation up and absolutely didn't work either. They actually, you know, they were hanging on at half-time, doing okay at most, but they just second and they just might as well have not been there. It was another high-scoring match in terms of cards, though, because this time round there were 7 yellows and 1 red. So yeah, not one for the purists.
Well, yeah, you could probably say that again. Can't say I've seen the challenge for Morton, so I'll have to go back and watch that and see if it was a particularly dodgy decision. None of us had a Sheffield Wednesday win in the predictions column, so no points for the result. I'd gone 2-0 Hull, Morton and Delap, so I was never getting my Morton goal, was I?
Well, unless he had scored before 35 minutes.
Yeah, true. Stuart also gone 2-0 with Delap and Connolly. Andy had gone 1-0 with Delap. Matt, however, had gone for a 1-1 draw, so no points there, but did correctly pick Windass and Twine to score. So bags himself 2 points for the goal scorers. So ending the week, Stu, 3 points from 5 games. Myself and Mr. Cook, 4 points from 5 games, but winning the week with 9 points from 5 games. Mr. Moore, well done, sir. So we're officially in week 23, as it is on the podcast, but we're officially into 2024 predictions across the board. We're also at FA Cup third round week, so no league fixtures to start us off, but we have got FA Cup fixtures, and the first of which is Andrew Cook's new team, where Fulham will be taking on Rotherham United. Obviously, Mr. Cook will have studied the form, he'll have studied the Rotherham website, he'll have picked some choice players inevitably across the board to score his goals.
I feel you know that Rotherham's website is on my shit list. I feel like you've singled that out as a thing, knowing full well that at some point I'm going to mention Rotherham. Sort your shit out.
Would I ever do such a thing? So we'll come to Mr. Cook last, as obviously his team. I'll get us started here. I fear that Mr. Cook might be changing teams yet again, as I've gone for a comprehensive 3-0 Fulham win on this one. It was mentioned earlier in the podcast. I have, however, gone for Muniz to score for Fulham in this one, along with goals for Wilson and Pereira. Stu, what have you got down for Fulham versus Rotherham?
I'm just in the spirit of old-fashioned Richard Whiteley countdown. 3-0 to Fulham with Pereira, Muniz, and Wilson.
That is absolutely ridiculous. Almost as if we had planned it. Matt, which order did you rate Muniz, Wilson, and Pereira in your 3-0 prediction?
I got none of those.
Ooh.
I've gone for a 4-1 Fulham win. I think they're going to try and push to possibly win a trophy this year. So, and with the Premier League break coming up, they might give it a bit of you know what.
Well, they are still in the semi-finals of the League Cup, bear in mind.
Didn't think about that. Never mind. Well, I've gone for Jimenez for 2, Iwobi and Kearney for Fulham. So 4-1, and I've given Rotherham a little bonus Ugill goal.
Aww.
So I feel like I predicted him a lot last year and he never scored, and then...
You're a nice lad.
I try.
Mr. Cook, first outing for your new boys. How do you think they'll get on?
They're going to win.
Ooh!
Simple as that.
Confident.
1-0.
I like it. 0-1.
Yeah.
Goal scorer?
Well, I feel like I haven't said it for a while, so Tom Eaves.
Superbly.
Yeah, that's it. That's how you spell it and everything.
It is. That's how it's written. That's how it's written on the terrible website.
Do we think it's several V's or a lot of E's?
A lot of E's.
Well, that's just this weekend, allegedly.
Way! Our second game of the FA Cup festivities takes us to Humberside, where Hull City will take on Birmingham City. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team, so he will go last. I'll go ahead straight away on this one. I've gone for a 2-1 Hull City win. Now, obviously, this is Birmingham going into this without their manager, as they sacked Wayne Rooney earlier in the week. Sad times. Who could have ever seen that coming when he won, I believe, 2 of his 15 games in charge? Yeah, not the best. I've gone for 2-1 Hull. Tufan and Delap to score for Hull. Bakuna to score for Birmingham. Matt?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
Connolly and Bakuna.
Andrew?
1-0 to Hull, Dilapidator.
Ah, yes. The Dilapidator himself. Are you going
cleared to
Woodmansey?
What was that, Matt?
Has he been cleared to play in the FA Cup?
There's been no word on it, but I can't imagine that he's going to be all of a sudden needed by Manchester City. So I would suspect that he probably will play. Or he'll be allowed to play. Whether he does play or not, we'll see. I have a feeling that I am going, Paul. Yeah, I am. Even though obviously I have my season pass now, this is a cup game, so therefore we have to pay for it. And the owners have played another blinder because it's costing me the grand total of £12 for me and my 2 boys to go.
Nice.
So I cannot complain at that at all. Can't decide if he's going to give most of the first team a break, because genuinely don't think they'll care less about the FA Cup this year. If they've got a sniff of the playoffs, they'll give it a go, I think. And I think the transfer business will probably be the more important part of January rather than this one game. So I have gone for a win, just because Birmingham are completely up shit street at the moment. I've been to Birmingham, could be factually accurate. But I've gone for 1-0 Vaughan.
think he'll get another chance, do you?
Vaughan's been playing off the bench a lot, and despite the fact that he plays with his age on his shirt, number 14, he's quite handy. He's just built like a jockey. So, like at one point when he grows out of the kids' kit, I think he'll be a better player. But he's pretty handy.
Well, there you go. 3 games left, which we'll get to momentarily. But we are just going to step away for a short moment, just take a break, have a little think about what we want to predict for Middlesbrough versus Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest versus Blackpool, and then another Middlesbrough game in a different cup competition where they play Chelsea. So we'll have a little think about that. We'll come back to you very shortly. But again, you won't need to do anything. So join us again in just a few minutes.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back in once again, ladies and gentlemen, to your marathon at this point. Post-festive podcast update. Our third game of the FA Cup third round slate sees my boys, Middlesbrough, taking on high-flying Aston Villa. Oh, it's my team, so I'll give my prediction last. Let's go to Mr. Cook for his prediction on his old team.
They may be my old team, but I've still got the love. Just a simple 1-0 victory for the Borough. And it's Latte Laugh scoring that goal.
Lovely stuff. Matt.
I've got a theme going here. It's a 3-1 Villa win.
Borough goal scorer?
Jones.
And your 3 for the Villa?
Watkins, McGinn and Bailey. Again, they're in that Fulham bracket of not going to win the league, but trophy this year would be ideal.
You?
I've actually got a 1-1 draw for this one. I've got Rodgers for Borough, and seemingly subject to a little bit of transfer speculation at the moment, John Duran.
Well, interesting that you said Duran, as I've also got him. So Duran makes their first appearance on the football podcast, which is always nice. I'm in agreement with Mr. Moore. I've also gone for a 3-1 Aston Villa win. I believe they're still second in the Premier League at time of recording. Let's have a look. Yes, they're still second in the Premier League. So I believe that even if they put some of the kids out, they will still have too much for the Borough. I've gone for Coburn to score for the Borough because he seems to quite like the FA Cup, that kid. And then I've gone for 1 each for Watkins, Duran, as previously stated, and Diaby. I wouldn't be surprised if Villa go quite deep in that competition. We played Brighton in the third round last year, and they got all the way to the semi-final. So I wouldn't be surprised if Villa do the same this year. Second to last game, and our last of the FA Cup third round fixtures, sees Nottingham Forest playing Blackpool. So obviously Mr. Moore will give his prediction last. What's Stu got down for Forest versus Blackpool?
I've got 2-0 win for Forest. I've got Hudson-Odoi and Mangala.
I thought for a second that he'd done it again and predicted exactly the same as me. But sadly, my 2-0 is Hudson-Odoi and Danilo, as opposed to Mangala. Andy, are you also on the 2-0 train?
1-1.
Ooh. Interesting. Goal scorers?
I've got Wood
Standard.
and Rhodes.
Jordan. Now, speculation apparently that he may be recalled by Huddersfield as he's only on loan at Blackpool. But obviously he's still eligible, and I don't know if he will be recalled. I think it was just paper speculation at this particular point. Matt, your prediction for your gents?
I've gone for a 2-1 Forest win. I think there'll be quite a few changes, but I've gone Origi and Yates to score for Forest, and Rhodes to score for Blackpool.
Very nice indeed. That concludes our FA Cup fixtures. There is just a small matter of the League Cup semi-final between Middlesbrough and Chelsea. This is the first of 2 legs, and is the first time that Middlesbrough will play at home in the competition this season. I have my prediction in the book, but it is my team, so I will go last. We'll go back to Mr. Moore for his prediction first, please.
I've gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win.
Your goal scorers, please.
Greenwood for Borough.
Yeah.
And Sterling and Brozier for Chelsea.
Andrew?
I have the opposite of Matthew. I have a 2-1 Borough win.
Very interesting. Your goal scorers on that regard, please.
Rogers and Latte Laugh for the Borough. And I also have Sterling for Chelsea.
Sterling performance from rugby. Stu?
I have got 1-3. I've got Jones for Borough. I've got 2 for Jackson. And 1 for Madueke.
Madueke. I've gone semi-confident on this one, and I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Crooks to get 1 for the Borough, and I agree with Matt. I've also gone for Broya to score for Chelsea. It'll be interesting, that one, because I kind of feel like they need to have something to take to Stamford Bridge, because historically, Middlesbrough don't do well at Stamford Bridge. I think ever since they won a playoff game, a playoff final there, back when the playoffs was played 2-legged at the home ground of each team that was involved in the game, I don't know if they've lost every single time they've played there since. So, yeah, I think they might need something if they're going to get to Wembley, but I wouldn't be putting my house on it. Let's put it that way. That, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to an end of all of our predictions and wrap-up marathon, as we said earlier. Unless anyone has anything else they'd like to bring to the table. Lovely stuff. Well, all that's left for me to do is obviously thank these 3 wonderful gentlemen for joining me to give you the rundown of their teams. Thank you very much, gents. Hope you had a lovely festive period. Join us again next week, where we'll break down all of the FA Cup games, the League Cup semi-final game for the Borough, and we'll obviously give you some predictions for next week's games. But until then, I hope you all had a lovely festive period. Join us again next week. Stay safe. It's tatty bye from us. Goodbye.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Another one done. Another week of games gone. Or several weeks of games gone. I forget where we are at this point in time. But more football to come. So, there's that. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. Big thank you for being here. Big thank you for joining us in the new year. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.